Hi, this is Brian with Prophetless Media and Post. I had a comment a little while ago asking if there was a way to take a polygon shape or a polyline and snap it to the center of the screen based on the center of the polygon shape. So I thought I'd put together a quick tip tutorial on one way we could do it, and also how we can do the opposite, snap the center point and pivot to the center of the polygon shape. And if we find this useful, turn it into a macro that we can use for other compositions. Now this is just kind of a flow of ideas. I haven't really flushed this out completely, but it seems to work pretty well so far. So here we have this polygon, and say we want to snap it to the center. One way we could do this is using the crop nodes. So let's add in a crop, add that in, bring the crop up into the viewer. And if we go over into the crop, we can go to auto crop and click on auto crop. Once we do that, it's going to crop in the image right to the edges of the mask, which will give us the ability to center the image by using one more crop. So let's add in another crop because we want to bring back the resolution that we just cut off. So let's go to the second crop. Once we look at the second crop, you can see we are back to our full resolution because the crop will be based upon the resolution of your composition. So it's kind of like a background node. So the only issue here is that our polygon has been pushed over to the side. But we can fix that really easily by going to keep centered in the second crop. Now our mask is perfectly in the center of the screen. Now this can be really helpful because now we can add a transform. And if I add a transform in, take a look. Now we have the center of the transform, our center point and our pivot is right smack in the middle of our shape, which could be really useful for doing animation. So now we can use this to move around our shape instead of how it originally was done. If we take a look at the polygon, our center point was in the center of the screen, but our polygon's over here. But now we have this option here. And so this could be pretty useful. So I'm going to set that to its default. So that's how we can snap our mask to the center of the screen and also have a center point in the middle of our mask. But what if we wanted to, if we look at the first polygon, what if we wanted to have our center point over here in the original position? Well, we can do that too. So I'm going to go back to the transform, and we can do that with another crop. And let's put this crop up. With this crop, we need to get the offsets that we have already done put into this crop so that we can move it over. Let's take a look at these. Let's take a look at these crops so we can see what's going on. So in the crop 3, I'm just going to pin that. I'm also going to expand out my inspector so we can see all of these nodes. I'm going to click on crop 2 and pin it, and crop 1 and pin it. So let's take a look at crop 1. If we come over to the crop tab, you can see we have an X and Y offset right here. And if we look at crop 2, which is the second one here, we have an offset over here too. So what we want to be able to do is basically add these together. And this is a positive number, this is a negative number, so this is going to subtract. And then we want to bring that number into our crop 3, but we want the opposite. So that may sound confusing. It is a little confusing. It took me a second to figure it out, but it's pretty easy to put together. So on the crop 3, let's right click on the X offset, click on expression, and then we'll use the picker to grab the crop 1 offset. Once we do that, you can see we have our crop 1 X offset, and then we need the crop 2 X offset, and we're not going to see anything happen because it's all together. So in between the crop 1 X offset, let's just put a plus sign, press enter, and then it's going to do the math. So that, I mean, it is a positive number plus a negative number, so it's going to subtract. And then we get our value, but we want the opposite of this because remember the polygon's on this side. So what we can do is we can treat this as one number and then put a minus sign in front of it to do the opposite. So I'm going to put a parentheses. So open and close parentheses, and at the very beginning, put a negative sign, press enter, and now you can see we're getting the negative value, the offsets from crop 1 and 2, And that looks like it's in the right location. So we just need to do the same thing with Y. And so instead of using the picker, we can just copy this. I'm going to copy that. Go to the Y offset, open expression, and then paste. And all we need to do is change the X's for Y's. So that looks like it's in the right location. Let's see. So here's the polygon. And there's the crop 3. It's exactly in the same location. And because we have our transform set up prior to that, the center point is smack in the middle of our shape, which would be great for animation. So let's clean this up a little bit. I'm going to turn off these pins. So if this is something that you would want to use, this is something that would be great to turn into a macro so that we don't have to add all these nodes together and set up these expressions. So one thing I wanted to mention about these crops is that whether you want it in the center or the original position, we have that option right here in our last crop. We have this option here for keep centered. If we click on that, it's going to override the offsets, which means we can change between either having this as the center point, or if we turn it off, we can have it in the original location where we drew the shape and have our center axis. So you have choices. So this would be, if this is something you're going to be, if this kind of node structure is something that you'd use over and over again, then we can turn it into a macro. So we're going to do that right now. Let's select all these nodes, right click and go to macro. Let's create a macro. We're just going to leave it macro tool 5. And then let's select the things that we need. So for the very first one, the first operation was the auto crop, so we want to turn that on. One thing we didn't talk about was the clipping mode, and I don't know if we really need it on crop 1, but we'll just turn it to none anyway. I want to make sure that if the image ever goes outside of the frame, that it doesn't get cropped off. So one thing I wanted to say was that all of these crops, since we're going to save a macro, all of these crops here are based upon the resolution of our composition. There's kind of like the background node. The background node, anytime you add a background node, every time you add a background node, it goes to the resolution of your composition by default. So we may want to turn on, for each one of these crops, we might want to turn on reset size, and possibly reset offset. Just so that we can reset it. If we go into a composition that's a different resolution, then we can reset it, and we'll be able to use this macro everywhere. And I think that's it for crop 1. Crop 2. We didn't really do anything here. This was pretty straightforward, right? We can change the clipping mode to none. And let's turn on the reset size and reset offset here, just in case. That's it for crop 2. And transform 1, we want the center, pivot, size, angle at least. Maybe auto resolution at the bottom. Just in case we need to change these resolutions, it would be nice to have a little button you can click. Yeah, so and of course, anytime after the fact, you can come back in here and edit the controls to turn on and off different ones. And then we have crop 3, which is the very last one. And the main one we want here is keep centered, and I think that's all we need. And reset size and offset here. Let's just close that out, and we'll just save it. And let's see if our new tool will work. So I'm going to grab a polygon, and this time let's do something on the other side of the screen. So I'm going to do one over here, and let's add in macro tool 5. Bring that up to the viewer. And I forgot to clear out the crops here before we started. So we have our reset at the top, reset offset. So now we're back at the beginning, and we could just hit auto crop, and you can see immediately the default setting is for this center point to be brought right to the center of the mask. But we also have the option inside our tool to move it to the center. So if I hit keep center, now we have this nice little tool that we can use if you want to move your center point to the center of a mask. So anyway, yeah, if you have any suggestions on this, this is just something brainstormed on it a little bit. Yeah, I haven't really flushed it all out, but it seems to be working pretty well for the little time that I've used it. So I think that's it for this video. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.